Hi, and welcome to Flying Solo. In this module, we'll be looking at being unpartnered, whether that's through circumstance, by choice, or both, from an affirmative point of view. Whether you're single or not, join the journey and let's dive in. Some more wisdom from Maya Angelou, offering a reminder that you're enough and worthy even when you're self-partnered or unpartnered, and that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone. A starting point for this conversation is acknowledging that not having a romantic partner doesn't necessarily mean you feel lonely or that your life is deficient in any way. Some people are single and do experience loneliness, but some don't. And society has a way of lumping everyone together as a monolith. If your parent is emotionally immature, they might discourage you from getting into a relationship because it would disrupt their codependency and your role as someone they can take their issues out on. Some parents are the opposite, and they exert a lot of pressure on their children to get married due to the shame of being unmarried in African communities. Parents can say things like, "If you don't find someone, my friends will judge me," which can feel coercive and pressurizing. And being unpartnered can even be interpreted as a generational curse rather than a choice, which can feel disempowering and problematic. Being single in the West looks like people living alone, eating alone, having to make their own money and meet their needs. This is a relatively new phenomenon because while separation did happen in pre-colonial times, if you were single, you wouldn't leave your community and live alone, hunting all by yourself and building your own shelter. If you did this, you probably wouldn't survive. We can't really explore this topic without making a quick detour into sexism and linguistics. If we had loving and affirming terminology for people who are single, then it would be normalized and even celebrated rather than being shamed. Single women have been called spinsters, old maids, and virgins, all derogatory terms, while single men are called bachelors and stags, both words that imply freedom and empowerment. This is an illustration from 1797 depicting the belief that single women would be punished by having to lead a group of apes in hell. It's such a hateful, derogatory image, but it's also honest because it portrays the fear, hatred, and disgust that many people, especially men, feel but don't express. And if single white women have been portrayed in this way, then I'm sure you can imagine how single black women would have been seen and are still seen to this day. On top of misogynistic and patriarchal norms, there's also the role of ageism. Younger single women were called virginal, and being single wasn't stigmatized as much. But the older women got, the more terms like spinster and old maid were used. These days, if you're single and are 30 plus, that's where the stigma really intensifies. So we're very much still stuck in the past. On some level, women and non-binary people being single challenges patriarchal norms because it's denoting that men aren't essential for women and non-binary folks surviving and thriving. And a common style of patriarchal retaliation ends up being violence, whether verbal, physical, systemic, or otherwise. Moving on from patriarchy, self-partnered life offers many unique opportunities to focus on personal growth and exercising autonomy. When you don't need to compromise as much, you can have more freedom and be more experimental with your life. Not having a partner also has some challenges, starting with familial perceptions and parents behaving in infantilizing ways because you don't have the legitimacy of having a partner, or they start to pile on the pressure for you to get a partner even if you don't want one. Then there's financial discrimination, like having to pay more for your bills, mortgage, or when you go on holiday. And from a physiological perspective, you don't have that person around to co-regulate with, so it might be harder to manage your nervous system day to day. Research suggests that we need at least 4 hugs a day as an antidote for depression, 8 hugs a day for mental stability, and 12 for psychological growth. This might be hard to do even if you're in a relationship, but if you're not, then intimacy could be less accessible. So think about different ways that you could get your needs for touch met, including a regular self-touch practice, self-massage, or paying for a professional massage, getting your hair done, and meeting friends more in person so that you can hug them. Being in community with other people that you trust and feel safe with is also important to boost mental health and reduce feelings of loneliness. And finding a powerful role model who is also single can be both affirming and normalizing. If you're single, craft a commitment ceremony where you consciously choose yourself. You could read out a poem, a prayer, or a letter that you've written to yourself. Include your favorite music and food, and choose a setting that inspires you. Use the previous modules on how to construct a ritual to help you do this work. Thinking about being in community in general is important, but within that, Think about accessing sub-communities with other Black folks who are also self-partnered, ideally of a similar age, and who have similar interests in common. Do some research and make a note of some of the spaces that you could access and when you would like to do that. And this brings us to the end of Flying Solo. Enjoy the rest of your day and see you in the next training.